Welcome back to the latest episode of the Warroom podcast presented by the Sideline Journal. I'm your host, Mason Rather, the Sideline General, and here I am today with my stat-slinging partner, Liam Carr. And listen, this division, it's a straight-up bar fight. We got Houston gripping the crown, maybe, but it's slipping like a wet football.
It's pure chaos again, man. They say AFC South. If you think it's not, better think again after this episode. I mean, CJ Stroud, can he get the MVP? Travis Hunter's here in Jacksonville. Is he going to be able to be the NFL's Shea Ohtani? Indy's got, honestly, our opinion, the biggest QB battle of the offseason, duking it out. And Tennessee betting on Cam Ward. He's fun to watch, but is he going to help that franchise get off their feet? Man, it's a circus out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're still waiting to see if Stroud's going to throw lasers. You know, the OTAs just came out, but he's still not throwing yet. We've got Hunter flipping back and forth between being an average wide receiver to an average DB. I don't know. Richardson, the 4th overall pick, is fighting for a starting job. And then we're going to see if Ward can save Brian Callahan's job in Nashville. And so, I mean, right off the bat, week 1 is wild. We've got the Texans and Chiefs, the Jags and Commanders, and we're breaking it all down. And we're going to save their records to the very end and dropping takes hotter than a Houston summer.
Hey, Houston's been owning the division for a little bit, but hey, who's going to get it? Jacksonville, Tennessee? Is it going to be? I don't know. Who's it going to be, Mason? Let's dive in.
This is the War Room presented by the Sideline Journal, where the film doesn't lie. Let's get to work.
So now we're officially at the halfway mark in this offseason series. We told you 8 straight weeks of straight fire takes on every division in the NFL. We're finishing up the AFC down south, and so we looked at the AFC North. East had Allen dominating. In the West, we saw the Chiefs maybe wobbling. And now the AFC South serving up its own drama. They've got playoff contenders, they've got rebuilds, and they've got some straight-up disasters brewing. So can Houston repeat the division, or will Indy and Jacksonville steal the show?
Hey, if anybody in the AFC South is going to do it, I'd put my money on Indy. Hey, AFC's been fun. We got our last night filming it with the AFC South. Can't wait to get to the NFC. Maybe we can talk about the pack.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm hyped to finish this up. The AFC's been good, but let's talk about this AFC South real quick, Mason. Hey, before we go on, follow us on X. Smash the subscribe button on YouTube. Follow our Instagram. Mason's been churning out content like crazy. It's high quality. Sometimes are we getting there before Adam Schefter? Hey, follow us on Twitter because we called George Pickens on May 7th going to the Steelers, and look who had a flight to Pittsburgh this week. Hit our Patreon for exclusive AFC South prop bets, and hey, let's get loud.
We're looking right at the Houston Texans, and the question is, can Stroud overcome a sophomore slump and cement his MVP case? And that's what their entire offseason's shown. They've been trying to revamp their offense, and it's shown throughout their offseason moves. I mean, last season they go 10-7. A lot of people don't think they're going to come off winning the wild card round. They do. They push everywhere they can in the divisional round at the Ravens. CJ Stroud had a solid season for a starting quarterback. It wasn't up to his standards as it was his rookie season. He threw a lot more interceptions. It led to Bobby Slowick being fired, and it led to an offseason where they kind of revamped the offense. They got rid of Stephon Diggs. They let him walk in free agency. They traded for Christian Kirk, a really productive slot wide receiver. They played in division. They draft 2 wideouts to start off, the twin guys from Iowa State, both Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. And, they've got Joe Mix returning off another 1,000-yard season, and their defense is returning Daniil Hunter and Azeez Al-Shaair, and you start to see the pieces for a reloaded season, but you see cracks in the foundation. They've traded away Laramie Tunsil. They replaced him with a below-average starter in Cam Robinson. They gave up on their first-round pick a couple years ago, Kenyon Green, and they've replaced him with a 33-year-old Lincoln Tomlinson, and they have Ed Ingram. And so you've got a shaky new offensive line. And you look at their schedule, it's a pretty early onslaught. You've got the Chiefs, you've got the Bears, Colts, Jags, and Bills, and looking at that right there, you've got the recipe for maybe they're 2-2, 2-3, and it's a very difficult start to their season. And so kind of looking at this, Liam, do you think that Stroud is going to be able to keep slinging it with a shaky O-line, or does the sophomore slump continue into year 3?
Man, it's really hard to be successful without an offensive line. We saw Joe Burrow was maybe the last to do it, and his O-line wasn't terrible then, but he was still running for his life. I love Stroud. I think everybody loves Stroud. He's a great guy, really respectful. He doesn't have anything going on. He's fun to cheer for, and he's a great quarterback. I mean, opening week last year, he had this out route to seal the game that was just phenomenal. He couldn't throw it any bit further, couldn't throw it like an inch closer because Indianapolis would have picked it off. But he's shown signs of being that guy. The Texans definitely picked a franchise quarterback, and we all know that by now. He didn't have as good of a year as he did his rookie season, which is usually kind of strange this last year. But going into year 3, trading away your best lineman on a really bad O-line to begin with is not my favorite move. I knew he was going to be expensive, and he is, I guess, a little bit on the older side where things start to get injured and production might start declining, a little bit. But I didn't understand that move. I don't like who they replaced him with. They drafted a lineman, but still on a very below average O-line. I mean, very below average. With having the offensive weapons that he has with Joe Mixon and Nico, who's a great wide receiver, and drafting the young guys and getting Christian Kirk, who's a solid 2. I don't know. It's still tough to decide. He'll still sling it fine, but are the Texans as a whole going to be productive and as good? I don't know. It really scares me, Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just going to be the question that defines their season. They've shown that they're able to take advantage of a weaker division and get to the playoffs and build some momentum. But they always stall out because the cracks in the core of their foundation show up. Last season, you go to Stroud's rookie season, their offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, he's getting head coaching interviews. Then you go to the sophomore season, the O-line's a year older, O-lineman departed in free agency, and you instead try to show that up with skill firepower with Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, and the offense regresses, the quarterback regresses, and it regresses so bad that you fire Bobby Slowick, and now he's gone back to being the passing games coordinator for the 49ers, and you can kind of see how fundamentally with their offense, cracks show up. They've done their best to try to replace it, kind of like you mentioned, with drafting some young offensive linemen, trying to bring in new faces, a new offensive coordinator, but what I see is I don't see a coaching problem, I don't see a quarterback problem, I see an O-line problem. And for me, they didn't do anything to address it, and I'm hopeful that maybe the new play caller will put that offense in more advantageous situations to hide and mask that offensive line. Because, Bobby Slowick comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree, and Kyle Shanahan's famous for not letting his quarterbacks make audibles at the line because he has a built-in hot route to every protection, so you can't change it. Well, if your O-line's going to surrender 54 sacks, that's a recipe for disaster, which is what happened to the Texans. So maybe a new scheme is going to kind of help them switch up, Liam, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that Houston offense, they got, their 2 and 3 wide receivers aren't going to play next season, Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, and their wide receiver core, people would look at that and say, oh, that's going to be the weakest link, and it's not. It's still their offensive line. They brought in some fair talent, but their offensive line's still down there. It really scares me. I feel bad for Stroud. Are the Texans going to give him the Justin Herbert treatment? I don't know. They have a good defense. Mason, let's talk about that defense. Is Houston's offense strong enough to support that stellar defense, or are they just one QB injury away from disaster?
Yeah, I mean, their defense, again, it gets you pretty excited. I mean, last year's second-round pick, Kamari Laster, really came on as a nice tandem to pair with Derek Stingley Jr., the highest paid corner in the league. Looking at that front 7, led by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, is a stellar defensive line. And then, I mean, that big beefy guy in the middle, Lorenzo Fedakowski, he's 6'4", 350. Like, you're not moving them. And so, I mean, that defense is going to continue to do what it's going to do. It's going to be a top 15 defense during the season. D'Amico Ryan's going to get them cooking, going to get them ball hawking the football, creating turnovers, and they're going to come alive during the season. But for me, the flashy part of the Texans that you see on all the edits, that you see on all the fan pages, is that they're led by C.J. Stroud and a high-powered offense. But I think actually the story of this season is, will the offense live up to how great the defense plays? And I'm just looking at it, and I mean, last season, Nico Collins goes down for 6 weeks, and their offense goes from a top 15 unit to a bottom 5 unit. Nico Collins comes back and it goes back to being a top 15 unit. So I just look at it, they're one bad injury to CJ Stroud or Nico Collins away from this being a very bad offensive unit. And so I am hoping and praying for Texans fans that, they get the right on the injury lug, because the depth kind of scares me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense on offense. I mean, you don't believe in David Mills, is it? The neck guy. Hey, but their defense. They've been selecting very well in the draft with Will Anderson and Derek Stingley, and they picked up Hunter from the Vikings, who's a great edge. He can really force a lot of pressure. And then I'm going to butcher that name. Henry Tuoto, and Al Shahir. They're great run stop backers. Great, fantastic. And the pass coverage, hey, don't want them out there maybe, but for getting into the playoffs and when it's all about running the ball and protecting it, these are the backers that you want. But yeah, I mean, they might be a CJ Stroud injury away from complete disaster, but they still have some good supporting roles around them, Mason.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to tell you, it's like you said, they're definitely, for as much as that we're questioning some of the foundation on their team, they're by far still, in my opinion, the strongest team in this division, and I think they're going to take advantage of this weaker division to allow themselves to try to play themselves into shape. So, I mean, Texans fans, will Stroud overcome that sophomore slump? Will Kirk replace the role Stephon Diggs provided in the slot? Hit us up on X, sound off below in the comments, and give us your take.
Hey, two of the hottest teams on SportsCenter right now are the Cleveland Browns and the AFC South Jacksonville Jaguars with Travis Hunter now. Recap real quick, they went 3-14, last in the AFC South last year. Trevor Lawrence, 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, ouch, with a 61.2% completion percentage. He missed 7 games. He was banged up left and right, just getting hammered, and then he had the concussion, I believe, too, when they just took him out. The defense was not good. They gave up a lot of points a game. They released Gabe Davis just recently. They traded Christian Kirk to the Texans. And then there was rumors right before the draft that they were going to go with Ashton Genty. They were going to go running back because apparently there was rumors that they didn't believe in their running backs, which is wild. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. But anyways, they trade up, they draft Travis Hunter with the 2nd overall pick from Colorado. Yeah, we all know him. And they hired, remember that controversy, the back and forth in the offseason with Liam Cohen, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. He had a great year with the Bucs and leading Baker Mayfield, and that offense looked fantastic. He goes over to Jacksonville. They give him a deal. He goes, nah. The Bucs give him a deal back. He goes back to the Bucs. Jacksonville returns with another offer. He goes back to Jacksonville. That back and forth left a bad taste in the Bucs' mouth. So he stays. He goes to Jacksonville, and they're definitely happy with that. They're definitely happy with their pick. But yeah, Mason, what's going on here in Jacksonville? Is Trevor Lawrence finally going to become the franchise QB, or does the mark of the beginning of the end in the
Duval? Well, I think it's a really interesting question to pose. Trevor Lawrence was lauded as the next Andrew Luck coming out, and it's because of how great he played at such an early age. He came in the league at just 21 years old. He's going into year 6 now as the oldest quarterback in the division, but he's only 26 years old. So, I mean, for me, as far as franchise quarterback labeled, I think that the season he led them to the playoffs, won a playoff game, cemented him as their franchise quarterback regardless of how he produces. I mean, you've seen the coaching almost travesty that's been a part of his tenure there. He didn't have a rookie season with Urban Meyer. I mean, Urban Meyer was busy, in massage parlors and at the bar and kicking the kicker, if y'all remember that storyline, to actually be coaching. And no idea what he was doing. And as much as I love Doug Peterson, you could quickly see the game was starting to pass him by. He could still call an offense to some sort of degree, but he couldn't manage a entire team could manage coaches on the defense side of the ball. His coordinators were letting him down with Pep Hamilton as his OC and the DC, and he still wouldn't fire them. And so, if you look at Trevor Lawrence and the question, will he be a franchise quarterback, I think what's great about what the Jags are doing now is they're going to give themselves no question about it. They go bring in Liam Cohen, who's going to bring the nice, famous West Coast Sean McVay offense that's very friendly to quarterbacks. They have supported him with Brian Thomas Jr. last season. They take Travis Hunter, trade up for him, taking the best athlete in the draft. However you want to say it, if he's going to be a great wide receiver or not, you've got to take on that maybe. But Travis Hunter, at the very least, is a very talented athlete that you can slot in that's going to be way more dynamic than anything else you had. And then they picked up someone that is very under the radar that I really like from the Commanders, Diami Brown, who's very shifty and elusive in the intermediate game. And so, you give him some skill talent. You have that duo of Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. Your offensive line is not terrible, but it's not amazing. It's a floor setter. I like Walker Little. I like Ezra Cleveland. Anton Harrison kind of scares me at right tackle, but you start to have a little bit of foundation in place for Trevor Lawrence. And so, for me, what I look at that's going to define their season is, will the defense live up to the talent that's there, Liam?
No, I don't think so. The defense. I want to start off with that offense, though, because you talk about the, Diami Brown. They got good wide receivers. I'm looking at their depth chart right now, and yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. showed that he could be a guy, LSU wide receiver, of course. I think everybody will say that. But then it goes Travis Hunter, Diami Brown. That's their depth chart. Their top 3 wide receivers right now. And then it goes Parker Washington, Joshua Safias, and Austin Trammell. I'm just not in love with that wide receiver room. There's not. I like Diami Brown as a third, but 2 is Travis Hunter. He was a, average wide receiver in college. So as a 2, that doesn't really excite me too much. And then let's go to the defense. Their defense let up a lot of passing yards. I don't have the stats in front of me right now, but I'm pretty sure their defense gave up the most passing yards of all teams last year. Darnell Savage had an off year. Their cornerbacks, it's tough. Their middle linebackers not bad with Devin Lloyd, and then Arik Armstead and Josh Hines Allen. Solid defensive lineman, but I just don't see it. I don't know why, with such a bad passing defense, with the 2nd overall pick you trade up for, you go with a nickel back for the defense that had a tough time covering last year. There's plenty of other problems they should have helped out. Going with Travis Hunter, I hate being a hater on him, but it's just hard for me to. I'm more hating on the Jaguars' decision to go with the nickelback and then 3rd, option 3 wide receiver with the 2nd overall pick, rather than getting a true D tackle 1, a true cornerback 1, which they could have done if that's what they thought that was the problem. They could have gone with a safety 1, but they didn't. So it just blows my mind that an organization like this would go like that, because I just don't think it was the turnaround they needed.
Yeah, you kind of hinted at there. So, just listening to that and kind of taking what you've told me, you don't think that Travis Hunter is going to show a 2-way star potential in the Ville?
Man, look, for Travis Hunter, he is the most athletic player in that draft. Okay, that's a fact. I'll say that. And he's very athletic compared to previous drafts, too. But are you telling me that there's no other wide receiver that can play cornerback, and there's no other cornerback that can play wide receiver in the NFL? There's plenty of athletes out there that, if you asked them to do that, they definitely would, especially if you said, hey, we're going to up your pay because you're paying 2 positions. And then also for the Travis Hunter stuff is that, Mason, did you see that? It was viral this week. The Jaguars posted the clip of Travis Hunter locking down the wide receiver and getting the interception.
I think I did, Liam. I think I did, and I think
it was really cool, right?
Yeah, I thought it was. He caught a really cool interception.
He dropped it.
Oh, he did?
He dropped it. Pull it up.
All right, we'll pull the clip.
He dropped it right there. He dropped it, and so, it seems like it's all just hype to me. They always just show him running routes on air. We've seen how his separation is, against the FCS school. It's just, why didn't they go with the wide receiver 1 if they thought that was a problem? They could have gone Or why didn't they go with the cornerback 1 if that was a problem? Just not a big fan right now. Don't think it's what they needed to turn around, Mason.
Yeah, the downfall of their team is going to be their secondary. I mean, legitimately, Travis Hunter will have to develop into being a quarterback number 1, shutdown, lockdown defender like Patrick Surtain for me to believe in this defense. And I think everyone can agree that's not going to happen. They've been majoring him on offense, letting him moonlight on defense a little bit, and I do think that they're going to find a way to make it to where he plays 15 to 20 offensive snaps to where he does have an impact on both sides. I don't think all the crap out there that's like he's the favorite to win offensive and defensive player of the year is just utter BS. If you're betting on that, you're throwing your money away. Do not listen to any of that. Any sports book that's giving that is trying to take your money. Don't do it. But
get 2 picks, and they're gonna say
he's the decoy. He's the decoy. Give it to him.
You're gonna get 2 picks and a touchdown, and they're gonna say, yeah, this is both.
And I'll just go look at J.J. Watt's 2014 season where he had 23.5 sacks and 6 touchdown passes, and he still didn't win MVP. Anyways, say all that to say, their defense, the story of their team is going to be, will their secondary hold up, and will Trevor Lawrence recapture that form? I think it's going to make a very interesting time down in Duval, and hopefully the perfect season for them is that they score a lot of points, their defense is that Trayvon Walker develops into a double-digit sack player. Travis Hunter shows ability on both sides, and they are clawing their way in the division. But anyways, I think the question that we can leave our viewers with is, what is Travis Hunter's ceiling? Is he a Pro Bowl wideout? Is he a corner? Or is he both? Will he be able to handle 80 snaps in a game?
I'm just going to leave y'all with this, all right? And you can decide maybe. All right? So I got some stats. All right? Okay, if Carolina didn't have such a historically bad defensive season, the Jaguars would have been there, all right? So here's some stats. They were second worst in yards given up. They were second worst in percentage of drives ending in a score, all right? Worst in passing yards given up, so they're secondary. Worst in net yards gained per pass attempt. 6th in least yards given up. Right in the middle, average of rushing yards per attempt, given up. And they were 3rd in interceptions, like 3rd in interceptions intercepted. So they were dead last in creating turnovers. All right, the defense did not help out the offense and created turnovers, swing momentum. They were dead last. All right, so I'll just leave you with that. Was the Jags defense more than a nickelback corner away from turning that around? I don't know.
And so anyways, Jags fans, you'll have to let us know what you agree or disagree with and sound off on X. Hit us in the comments below and drop your take. So now we take it out to the Indianapolis Colts, kind of on a more serious note. Jim Irsay died at the young age of 65 for an NFL owner. I think he had a great tenure as the owner for the Indianapolis Colts, led them to 2 Super Bowls, oversaw a transitory period throughout their entire time in the organization. I think Pat McAfee said it best about Jim Irsay. The big guy finally got to go home. And so, now kind of turning on a more lighter side, looking at the recap of their 2024 season, the biggest question coming out of it is, the quarterback battle that they have to have, because Anthony Richardson, AR-15, who was supposed to develop into this dual threat electric quarterback, had another season plagued by injuries, plagued by inconsistencies, completed under 50% of his passes, and the Colts regressed going 7-10 and missing the playoffs. And it begs the question of his play style. He missed 7 games with a concussion and shoulder injury. He has not developed to be able to read a field progression-wise at the NFL level, and they had to lean on their ground game with Jonathan Taylor in that offensive line. But that offensive line, which has finally been good after it forced Andrew Luck to retire, is starting to regress. Wolf Fries and Ryan Kelly left in free agency. Bernhard Raymond hasn't really developed into the tackle that you would like. And so, kind of looking at the makeup of their offense, I do like Tyler Warren, drafted at 14. He was a top 5 talented rated player for me in my draft big board, and they got him at 14, which is a steal. And they're surrounding their quarterback controversy with some skill talent. But the question of the entire offseason is who's going to win that quarterback battle? Richardson's legs or Jones' experience, Liam?
And I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, I like both of them. Daniel Jones has shown he's shown he can spin it, and he's got some wheels. I think he ran faster than, when he had that embarrassing breakaway touchdown that he just stumbled for no reason for. The turf monster got him. His speed, I think, reached faster than Lamar's ever ran. And then Richardson, we always just talk about potential because he's hardly played. All right, give the man a chance. He hardly played in high school, college, and then in the NFL. I forget what the stats are for how many career games he started when he was a rookie in the NFL, but it was something wild. And then he got injured and he was out for most of the year. We just haven't seen. We're just on the surface of what Anthony Richardson can be. And if you ask me, I see some Cam Newton, with a big body dual threat quarterback. He's fast and strong, and I think it was week 1 or 2 last year. There was like that. Man, I want to say he threw it 70 yards off foot. It was wild, cross body, perfect. So for me, as a guy who picked Anthony Richardson in the 4th round of the Dynasty Fantasy Football League, I would go Anthony Richardson here.
Man, that's hopeful. You're sounding like every NFL talent evaluator in existence is the ultimate mystery box. Jamarcus Russell was the ultimate mystery box. Trey Lance was an ultimate mystery box. AR-15 is an ultimate mystery box. Cam Newton's an ultimate mystery box. Marcus Mariota was a mystery box. It's this uber talented quarterback that his athleticism matches the natural ability to play the quarterback position. And unfortunately for me, I just don't see it with AR-15. I just don't think that he is capable of playing quarterback at the rate that you need to in the National Football League. And I think it's going to do me in. So here's the deal with Daniel Jones. I'm a Daniel Jones believer. I think that he was in maybe the worst situation you could possibly be in to be a quarterback in the NFL for multiple seasons. Hey, your only skill talent is a running back that's injury prone until he leaves you. You have no O-line. Your best wide receiver is Darius Slayton. And then, you get Malik Neighbors, but then we bench you once Malik Neighbors starts figuring out his way in the NFL. And so, I do think Daniel Jones is going to win the job. I think there's a reason the Vikings took Daniel Jones and immediately made him.
Anthony Richardson is young. Daniel Jones, we've seen plenty of film of him, and he just goofs it too much. He just throws it the wrong way too many times. Anthony Richardson, you could say, he has that problem too. This is his second offseason he's going into. He definitely has a lot of work cut out for him when it comes into the classroom and the meetings and, practice. He's only going to be getting better, and he's had some tough injuries to fight over, but still, he can still sling it. Don't talk to me about completion percentage, but he has all the tools around him. He's in a great position. This year is the year he's going to break out, and you're going to tell me you're going to bench him?
Yeah, and all qualified quarterbacks since 2015, he has the worst QBR. You can go check that. He has 11.4% QBR rating. By far the worst. Johnny Manziel had a better QBR rating than AR-15. And I'm just saying that to say that, yes, he flashes potential. But for where the Colts are, if Shane Steichen wants to save his job, if Chris Ballard wants to save their job, Daniel Jones, who's still only 26, going to turn 27, has to become a Sam Darnold-like quarterback for them. That's why I think he's going to win the battle. Is that what I would do in their position? No, I would start AR-15 because he has the most potential. But this is a result-based business, and going into year 3 of a regime, they have to show some sort of result. And if they don't start Daniel Jones and they start AR-15, you're going to have another very up and down season because AR-15's play is going to be up and down. And so I just look at that entire controversy quarterback battle. Whoever ends up being the starting quarterback is going to tell, is the organization going to give Steichen and Ballard time, or are they souring on this regime? Because if they are, they're going to start Daniel Jones to try to save their jobs. But anyways, Liam, that's kind of how I see it.
I'm just going to leave you with this. It doesn't matter. Each quarterback, whoever starts, they're gonna have 5 games to prove themselves, and if not, they're getting, benched, and the other guy's going to take over. Do I think Daniel Jones has a right? Yeah. And do I think Richardson has a right? Yeah. Who did you just pick up in free agency, and who did you draft 4th overall just 2 years ago? I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson. See what he has left, coming out healthy after an offseason. Give him the ball, let him see what he can do. Week 1 is going to be the biggest tell of what he's going to do for the rest of the season. And I would definitely put your drafted 4th overall guy. All the guys have been around him for 2 years now, not Daniel Jones. Let's go with Richardson. That's all I got. And so regardless of who starts week 1 or week 5 at QB, can Steichen, can he pick the right QB and win, or is this a controversy, a season killer?
Well, Shane Steichen got the job for developing and turning Jalen Hurts into a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and it's built off an RPO-heavy system. And I mean, you just look at his last season with the Eagles; he was 4th in EPA per play. And the Colts, for all their quarterback controversy, has been a top 15 efficient offense. I mean, they went 9-8 with freaking Gardner Minshew, and you saw him go to the Raiders and go 4-13. And so, I mean, what I think the Colts have done and what Shane Steichen has done that's really great is they have surrounded for his system for it to be successful. You got Michael Pittman Jr., you got Josh Downs, you got Alec Pierce, you got Tyler Warren, you've got Adonai Mitchell. You've got a very large crop of skill sets with the wide receivers, and I think Tyler Warren's going to show up like Dallas Goedert did real early for whatever quarterback's back there. I think Jonathan Taylor's primed to continue rolling. He had his breakout season a couple years ago, dealt with some injuries last season, 1,300, 1,400 yards. They continue to build year 3 into this system, and I mean, you have the makings of an offense that can function and can work. It's if they can get average quarterback play, and that's why I look at Shane Steichen. As a coach, it hurts for me because I think offensive mind-wise, he's a top 10 offensive mind in the league, but I think he's been cursed with the franchise quarterback they selected gets hurt and can't play. Comes back year 2, deals with injuries again. Now we're year 3, and he's dealing with the same GM that basically wasted Andrew Luck's prime seasons. I think Ballard's been here 3 seasons too long, and you just kind of look at it of where will the offense and this offensive coach be able to design some sort of scheme that's going to produce, because that defense is getting older, and it kind of scares me, Leo.
The defense is not something that I love. But, let's talk about their weapons with running back, the 3 wide receivers, and tight end. I mean, in my opinion, I think in the AFC South, this is the best weapons room out of all of them. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren. And then to tell me that offensive line is anchored by potential Hall of Famer Quentin Nelson. Solid guy. Still, when I look, he's still pretty young comparatively for offensive linemen. I think that they are primed to be a wild card team. They definitely can. But yeah, that defense, like you said right at the end there, I mean, where to start? I mean, I know that their cornerbacks got a lot of picks, but still they were kind of like gambling too much on the picks. They let up a lot too of touchdowns and passing yards. And then DeForest Buckner, I mean, if he's not in, that run defense stinks. Which, is a great thing because you got an all-pro, a fantastic defensive tackle, but then when he's not in there, who else do you have? So that's a little scary. The depth just isn't there. The production's just not fantastic. This is a team where the offense is better than the defense, and that's always not a fun thing to say when you got to go to playoffs. Regular season, it's fine, it's whatever. Offense will put up the points, right? But then when you got to ground and pound and run the ball and the defense has to stop it. The Colts last year were terrible with the run defense, so
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I was just going to tell you, looking at their defense, I mean, linebackers where they're not very good. I mean, they've tried to replace their really good linebacker Darius Leonard with Zaire Franklin. I don't think it's been great. And I mean, they've got young first-round picks in Latu and Kwity Paye on that defensive line, but they have not produced to the standard of their draft picks. Like, they both have not clocked in any sack total higher than 6.5. DeForest Buckner, that all-pro defensive tackle who's entering his age 31 season, has led them in sacks. And I mean, Looking at their secondary, Kenny Moore is their best corner, who's a slot corner. Yes, he generates turnovers. Yes, he plays tackles. But if your slot corner can't guard the number one wide receiver on every play, and they go take a very boomer bust signing in Trevarius Ward. Trevarius Ward has played at an all-pro level with the 49ers at some point, but this last season, out of 132 qualified corners, he ranked 84th in coverage. He dealt with some personal tragedy with the death of his son, but you go sign him to a big contract expecting him to be a number one corner. And the Colts, their defense is looked at as maybe a top 15 unit. I see him, honestly, as a bottom 10 unit, Liam.
Hey, you're forgetting about one of their best cornerbacks in secondary. They just signed him from MIAA Washburn Products, Corey Ballantyne.
Really? You're going Corey Valentine. What a pull.
Ballantyne.
What a pull right there. Corey Ballantyne.
MIAA. They just signed him from the Packers. He's their second string nickelback. Oh, they'll be fine. Look.
You're saying from the MIAA from Washburn?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a shout out to. I've probably coached against Corey Ballantyne. Come on now.
Yep. Colts fans though, Richardson, Jones, Steichen, is he gonna get it done? Sound off on X. Best team in the AFC South, Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward, the biggest, number one overall pick. I'm sure they're hyped about that. The Will Levis experiment is over. It's done. It's on fire. It's in the trash. We're done with the Will Levis memes. Tennessee fans are probably relieved to have a guy with aura like Cam Ward. 3-14 last year, though, not good at all. Defense was not bad. If the defense is always on the field, they're going to give up more yards and more points, obviously. When that offense kept on stalling out, every drive was a 3-and-out, it felt like. The defense is going to give up points. So I'm not going to hate on the defense too much. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. The stats are skewed because they were on the field 40 minutes a game. But anyways, Cam Ward out of Miami, love his story. We've already talked about him. Incarnate Word, guy's really worked his way up. He's a dual threat, high potential. And the Titans this offseason, it's low key, but they've signed Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson. They kept Tony Pollard. They drafted Eric Aomanor out of Stanford, solid guy. They got Calvin Ridley still. And so they, the Titans have really been buying in, and they want Cam Ward to succeed. They're tired of being, since they re-signed Tannehill and got rid of Derrick Henry, it has been terrible in Tennessee, in Nashville. They've been hating football. This is their turnaround year is what they want. Ward has already been named QB1 at the OTAs. I think that's it, Mason. So, Mason, does Brian Callahan develop Ward and a soft schedule spark a turnaround, or does Tennessee go into next year? We're already talking about next year. Do they go into next year rebuilding?
So I alluded to it in episode 3 of the War Room, and I alluded to it when the Titans were projected to draft Cam Ward number 1 overall. Brian Callahan is a very fraudulent coach, and unfortunately, Titans fans, I don't think he's the guy to develop Cam Ward, and I envision him being fired after the end of this season because it's going to be another long season for the Titans fans. I mean, just taking a snapshot at your schedule. Week 1, you go to Denver, L. Week 2, you host the Rams, L. Week 3, the Colts, L. Week 4, you're at Tennessee, L. Week 5, you're at the Cardinals, L. You're 0-5 to start the season, maybe 1-4 if the Colts are a dumpster fire. That's to start the season off. Then you got to go to the Raiders and with your offensive line try to block Max Crosby. Not going to happen. The Patriots, that could be a dogfight. So maybe you're 2-5, 1-6. To answer your kind of question, will Brian Callahan be able to develop Cam Ward? I'm not in love with the offensive line. J.C. Latham is slowly developing into being a franchise tackle. Peter Skoronski's a good guard, but Dan Moore, starting him at left tackle, is a recipe for disaster. Calvin Ridley is 31 years old, entering age 31 season.
31 years young.
31 years young, that's a way to look at it.
Hey,
Glass half full. Treylon Burks, who's going to probably be cut by the time Final 53s come out because he's right now in OTAs. He's the 5th wideout. The undrafted free agent wideout is ahead of him in the depth chart right now. What's that guy's name from? He's the undrafted Xavier Restrepo, the guy that played with Cam Ward at Miami. So I mean, I think Cam Ward is gonna. I think he has enough natural ability to where he'll excite you. It's just gonna be the question: is this season gonna be like a Marcus Mariota type rookie season? Is it gonna be an AR-15 season, or is it gonna be a Cam Newton season? Where in that spectrum is he gonna fall? So I mean, overall for the Titans, the most exciting thing that can happen for them is that Cam Ward comes out there and basically looks like Cam Newton and Warren Moon, and he's so good to where what happened with Zach Taylor. Joe Burrow is so good that Zach Taylor still has a job. Hopefully Cam Ward's so good Brian Callahan still has a job, but I just don't see it happening. So, I mean, Liam, do you think that Cam Ward's going to be able to be Tennessee's savior, or is he too green for this division?
Man, I mean, look, it's the Unk show over there. They got Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett as their 1 and 2. And then you got Burks and then Van Jefferson, Unk. You know, I'm not a big fan of who they've been surrounding them around, who they've been surrounding him with. You know, it's hard for any quarterback to succeed with that around them. You know, their defense, I don't think it's terrible. They got L'Jarius Sneed, they got Sweat, solid guys to build around. But you know, that offense, I mean, if they're just going to 3 and out again, like Cam Ward is a playmaker, but if you're going to say, hey, go out there, do what you do in Miami, all right? Hey, good luck. Tap him on the shoulder, say, you got it. And, like, he doesn't have, I don't want to say not a whole lot of people, but come on, you're going to tell me that, like, 32-year-old Tyler Lockett and 31-year-old Calvin Ridley are going to save him when he's scrambling around? Maybe, but not a majority of the time. When you got really good edge defenders going against twice a year in Houston and then Jacksonville, they got some good edge, and then you know, secondary the Houston. But yeah, that start of the season is going to be really tough. I mean, baptism by fire probably for Cam Ward. I'm excited to watch him. I'm sure he'll have some fun highlights, but I mean, he's not going to have a lot of fun highlights if he's just running around getting just whooped every single play.
Well, the good thing, I was just saying the good thing though is he's probably going to put up a lot of production because they're going to be playing behind for so long. I mean, I look at their defense, Liam, and I mean, yeah, they've got good players, but they're all old. They're all fossils, which is what you don't want to be being a 3-14 team. I mean, Xavier Woods at safety is 31. L'Jarius Sneed is entering age 29, which is old for corners. Roger McCreary, he's a little bit on the younger side, but your edge rushers. Arden Key is 28 and has never had a 10-sack season. You've got Draymond Jones from Seattle, who's in his 30s. Jeffrey Simmons in his 30s. Sebastian Joseph Day in his 30s. Your only young piece on defense is Devondre Sweat, who weighs 340-something pounds and is a nose tackle.
A light 300.
A light 300, but...
Hey, he took a lot of production.
At nose tackle? I don't know about that.
Like the A-gap.
He plays maybe 50% of the snaps. But that's still, maybe you're going to see a lot of Cam Ward because they're going to be playing behind so much.
I really feel bad because, like, they have their bye week 11. All right, and getting a win before week 11, looking at their schedule, looks like it's going to be really tough. I feel like they're going to have to beat an in-division rival to have one in the winning column. And then week 14 they play the Browns, which could be 2. So, 14 weeks to get maybe 2 wins out of that, even if they beat the Browns. Man, that's really tough. And I can really see that happening. I mean, some of their out of division games, they go against like the Chargers, which is wild, and the Broncos. They got to go against that whole AFC West, and so I just kind of feel bad for Cam Ward, honestly. He has a high potential. We said that about Anthony Richardson, but, Cam Ward looks like he might have a little more with passing it wise. But, he might, at the end of the season, if he has a completion percentage similar to Anthony Richardson, are you going to blame Cam Ward, or are you going to blame Callahan and his targets around him?
I'm going to blame Brian Callahan and the franchise for taking his quarterback #1 overall. He was my 25th ranked prospect. I don't think that he was a talent worth the #1 overall pick. And you take a talent like that, think he can overcome the situation around him. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I hope so, because Cam Ward's story is incredible. I do think he has traits to be a franchise quarterback eventually, but we're just going to have to see how it plays out. So, I mean, Titans fans, let us know down below.
Are you saying that the Titans should have picked more pieces, offensive line, maybe a weapon, maybe some defensive guys? They should have picked more prospects before they went and drafted a franchise quarterback?
If I was the Titans, I would have drafted Abdul Carter and played Will Levis another year, is what I would have done if I was the Titans GM.
Get maybe another weapon and a quarterback too.
And then next season, you are looking at it, if you're having another top 5 pick, which probably will happen, you're going to have a way better quarterback talent group of like Lenore Seller, Drew Allard, Clay Kubnick, maybe Arch Manning if he declares. There's much more talented quarterbacks in the next draft cycle that you could then maybe talk yourself into taking. I think they forced a pick here when they didn't have to.
You want to tell Titans fans that they have to watch another year of Will Levis football?
You're about to have to watch a year of excitement with Cam Ward, but
wasted potential.
It's going to be wasted. I'm telling you, the Titans fans are going to feel even worse when it's Week 8 and Week 9, and Cam Ward has more interceptions than touchdowns, and they're looking at 1-7 and 1-8. But y'all, sound off below. Tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way too pessimistic on Brian Callahan and the Titans. Maybe Cam Ward's actually that guy. Tweet us on X. Sound off in the comments. Drop your take. Tell me how I don't know anything about football. I'd love to hear it. And so there y'all have it. That's the 4-team recap of the AFC South division. And time to drop the bomb. Here's how the South's going to shake out. We've got the Texans taking the division at 11-6. You've got Stroud returning back from a sophomore slump to be a top 10 quarterback and leading that offense against a soft early slate. And Kirk and Mixon keep the offense elite. But the O-line woes and a tough late stretch is going to cost them a game or two. Then we've got a two-way tie for second place with the Colts and the Jags at 8-9. We've got Travis Hunter showing up in a certain way to give an effect to the Jags. We've got Trevor Lawrence returning to top 15 play, and an easier schedule late is going to allow them to pick up some wins from a rough early stretch. But that weak secondary and questionable defense is going to have them missing the playoffs, but they're close. It's the same deal with the Colts. The quarterback controversy is going to shroud their entire season. The aging defense, the question mark with the interior of their offensive line leaves a little bit of left to desire, and it shakes out to the very competitive AFC where they're tied at 8-9. Then we have the Titans finishing at 6-11. We have Ward flashing with 3,500 passing yards, 500 rushing yards, but rookie mistakes, a very porous old defense, and limited weapons and coaching malpractice, in my opinion, is going to limit their potential. So I think that they're a year away from being a year away.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans with the division, I think that's pretty easy. It's pretty safe, too. They might have still a mediocre year with CJ Stroud. Maybe disappointing just because his rookie year was so good and they made the playoffs and they had a great run. But, still winning the division's great. That's what you want. But Texans fans to be disappointed would be crazy going 11-6. It's hard to win in the NFL, all right? Jags, Colts splitting it, yeah. My take is that the Jags are going to be slow risers. If they struggle at the beginning of the year, don't worry. They're just trying to see what's working with the new offensive coordinator, with the new offense. They'll get it together. The Colts, just that quarterback controversy, nobody likes it. Just rip the Band-Aid off, start one, stay with him through the highs and lows. And the Titans, yeah, they just don't have enough around Cam Ward to really be super successful. Hopefully, we're hoping for better than last year, but their schedule is going to be tough to make that happen.
Yes, I mean, playoff teams, we got one team making it out, the Texans at 11-6. We have them grabbing a top 4 seed. We got the Jags and Colts somewhat in the mix, barely missing it. Maybe the Colts more likely than the Jags, just depending on how it shakes out. And so, I mean, Liam, do you think that Indy has a shot to steal it if AR-15 is the quarterback?
If AR? Look, if you're asking me, AR, yes, I think they have a shot with all those weapons, Mason. What do you think if Indy has it with Jones?
If they have it with Jones, I think we're looking at a 9-8, 10-7 season, and they'll actually might even compete to take the division. If it's AR-15, I think they'll go 7-10. To be honest with you, that's the biggest disagreement that we have. He is an AR-15 believer. I am not. I just do not see it. But what are you going to do? But anyways, I mean, that kind of leads you into where we have the playoff teams, we got the records, and so then that begs the question, there's only 32 of these jobs in the NFL. I read a stat that you're more likely to win the lottery, become a congressman, or get a doctorate than be an NFL head coach. And currently, we're going to look at the hot seat meter of every single coach in this division. And so you go look at the Texans. DeMeco Ryans, I think he's the safest job in this division. By far, has been the most successful since he's been there. I think he has like a 13-2 division or 13-3 division record since being their head coach, and I think he's safe. We've got Shane Steichen blazing hot because he's missed the playoffs each season. AR-15 has regressed. The team has regressed, and it's the question of year 3. If they make the playoffs, he goes back to being safe. If they miss it, I wouldn't be surprised he's being fired. Liam Cohen, he just got into town, brand new, signed a 6-year contract where they had to pay him to get there. I think he's safe, and it's my hot take for the Titans. I think Brian Callahan's on a pretty warm seat. If Cam Ward doesn't show up or flash potential, I think he's out of town.
Yeah, I mean, Steichen, if they don't make the playoffs, the Indy fans are probably going to be screaming for his head. I mean, with the weapon, they're going to say, look at those weapons that you have, and you can't win. And yeah, those weapons, you may not think so, but I think they're solid all around. You're, on offense, you're as strong as your weakest link. For their weapons, I think they're pretty solid. And then, yeah, in Tennessee, I mean, the rebuild is just not what you want, so they're going to blame the head coach and maybe the GM and then kick them out and then restart the whole train wreck. So I agree with you.
So, I mean, there it is. We've got it for you laid out right there. So who's going to be your South's champ? Is Steichen Toes? Tag us on X and let us know. And so, I mean, that's the AFC South slugfest. We've got Texans owning it with Stroud. The Jags are trying to scrap their way with Hunter's two-way magic. The Colts are still freaking tripping on some quarterback drama, and the Titans are banking on Ward's future. So Stroud's return to top 10 quarterback play is going to steal it. Indy's quarterback mess is going to be what steals the show.
Hey, and then we got Travis Hunter, the new kid on the block. His potential is super high. Is he going to meet that? I don't know. Houston, still Kings. Yeah, all around they're still there. Steichen, watch out in Indianapolis. But hey, let's talk about it next week. Let's go. First of the NFC.
Yes, sir.
Going to start off with the Packers, a team I'm an owner of. Loves Packers, Matt LaFleur. We got Josh Jacobs, the wide receivers. What are we doing there? I don't know. I'll have some opinions on that. And then the Jared Goff Lions and Dan Campbell, no longer Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. It's just Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. They still got Sonic and Knuckles. They still got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. But hey, they just had a retirement. And then Chicago, they're going all in with signing free agents to protect Caleb Williams. Chicago loves free agents, don't they? And then we got the Vikings. Are we gonna have a hot take with J.J. McCarthy? J.J. Jefferson, is he quarterback proof? Do the Vikings still have that defense in them where they blitzed the highest amount last year? Mason, I'm excited for it.
I'm very excited for the NFC North. I think all 4 teams have a case to be playoff contenders, and it transitions it over to the NFC. And so, I mean, y'all follow us on X, smash that subscribe button, hit us up on TikTok for more Wrath Level takes and for more takes on the AFC. And we want to hear you throw your wildest takes down below in the comments at the AFC South Warroom. We're shouting out the spiciest take next week on our Instagram.
So that Mason can get another monitor.
Yes, upgrade our studio. Anyways, we're signing off here from the War Room. The next time you'll see us, the Thunder will sweep the Pacers and bring that championship to Oklahoma City.
That's what we're hoping for.
All right.
See you next.
Peace.
Consider checking out the entire Warroom podcast playlist. We finished up the AFC, so if your favorite team's in the AFC, click that playlist over to your right. And on the left is a shorter form content, Fourth and Forever, about famous players in the NFL. We hope you consider sticking around, subscribing, and catching us in the next video. Anyways, peace out.